Hello, everyone. My name is Kathy Nathnagle, and I'm the content manager here at Give Smart by Community Brands. And I am very excited to have each and every one of you here today, joining us and listening in. Today is episode 9, and I cannot believe it, of our Fundraising Success Blueprint series, where it is my team's hope to kind of go in depth on 12 areas of fundraising to not only address each topic, but to also provide, at the end of the series, to provide a complete blueprint of kind of how you can be just an outstanding fundraiser. So we are big believers that people do not just want to hear from us. They want to hear from their peers in the development space. So I invite all of my panelists today to turn on their camera and give us a wave. And I'm thrilled to be joined by all of them who have graciously given up their time to share their expertise today. So we're joined today by Dan Barnett from the Hyacinth AIDS Foundation, Caitlin Bordeaux and Lori Hirsch from Marion Central Catholic High School, and Paula Keelick from Pals for Life. So before we kind of get into the content, I do want to have all of them kind of introduce themselves and what their organization does. So we'll just go in order of the slides. So Dan, if you want to tell us a little bit about Hyacinth AIDS Foundation.
Sure. Thanks so much for having us. We all appreciate being here, and this is a great space to kind of share ideas and get some other great ideas. Hyacinth is New Jersey's largest and first founded HIV service organization. We provide services throughout the entire state, inclusive of we are the only organization to have a public policy team impacting legislation and laws that directly have an effect on the community living with and at risk of HIV. Our mission for our organization is to help people live with HIV and to help prevent the spread of the epidemic, as well as to provide a voice for those individuals in the state who may live and be affected by HIV.
No, that's great. And nothing like being the largest and all that policy stuff I know is really important. So we're glad you're here and that you're fundraising with us. Caitlin or Lori, if you want to tell us about Marion.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. Like Kathy said, we are with Marion Central Catholic High School. We are a Catholic high school located in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, in a town called Woodstock, and we have 430 students.
Perfect. And then Paula, do you want to tell us a little bit about Pals for Life?
We are an organization that brings pets to visit people all throughout the greater Philadelphia area. So we bring dogs and cats and bunnies to nursing homes, hospitals, rehabilitation centers. We have a Read to Pet Pals program. We have an emotional support program for middle school and high school students. We go to colleges, and we even have a corporate wellness program.
Awesome. Thank you. And I will say on your website underneath staff, you do have a couple bunnies listed, which made me smile. So we're really excited again that all of you are here today. Today we're going to be going over, the panelists are really going to be sharing kind of their tips and tricks and their talent. I'll be sharing a little bit of data kind of toward the end about revenue enhancers and all of that. And we're going to be taking questions throughout. So you'll see a question box and a chat box. Question box, self-explanatory, ask your questions, and then chat. We'll be sharing some information and some resources that are available to you. So keep your eye out. And Susanna, who is here, will be kind of monitoring in the background too, which is really great. And then with that, let's talk a little bit about some Zoom tips and tricks, which maybe sounds hilarious 15 months into all of this, but on Zoom webinar, if you want to see everybody who's presenting, just make sure to pick gallery mode. Again, I just talked about kind of questions, and we'll be sharing those resources. We're really excited. And if we don't get to your questions for whatever reason, please know that someone will follow up with you. So today we're going to talk about kind of what a revenue enhancer is, how we define it, because that's important, and the circumstances where they kind of make sense. We're going to and a little bit about maybe some benefits beyond the revenue raised. We're going to be going through some campaign examples from our panelists. And like I said, I'll be sharing some data and insight at the end to kind of hopefully help motivate and excite everybody who's listening to kind of take a leap with the idea of a revenue enhancer. But before we do, we've been doing this poll from the beginning, and it just kind of talks about what your 2021 looks like. So are you going to be hosting all virtual campaigns, hybrid campaigns, a little bit of both, all in person, or is it kind of up in the air, which I think we're all kind of used to, right? Kind of planning on the fly. But before we dive into all of that and go through that poll, we do want to talk about revenue enhancers. So a brief definition, and I'm curious what our panelists have to add on, is that revenue enhancers are extra things that you do at your events, either virtual, hybrid, or otherwise, to raise money. So it looks like a raffle or kind of some games that are typically played at in-person events. And what we saw over this past year, and what our panelists will be sharing, is some of those things, like bingo or kind of creative theatrical raffles, things like that, were pulled out of the event idea, and were done as a standalone thing or a kickoff thing or something like that. So I'm curious, do any of our panelists have anything to add? If not, that's okay.
Yeah, I'll just add that, in a time where we were unsure of what tomorrow looked like, it was a great way to be able to utilize GiveSmart, to be able to do some of these different events or just a revenue enhancer. And so, we'll talk a little bit more about our event later, but we felt like our constituents were feeling Zoom fatigue, and so we needed to do something creative and unique, and we're able to utilize what GiveSmart has to offer to be able to do so.
No, and I appreciate that the theme of kind of making sure that you can bring everybody into the fold. That's what revenue enhancers are really for too, because not everyone's going to be doing a $10,000 paddle raise. Not everybody's going to win an auction item. That's the nature, the competition of an auction is what drives it, but also there's one winner. So what other ways that can you captivate individuals? Can you get dollars in? Can you kind of see where people's interests lie, and get support for your mission? So no, that's a really good point. And as this kind of poll wraps up, this to me is a shift. We've kind of, as the year has gone on, or as the series has gone on, we've seen that some virtual and some live campaign kind of creep up or stay steady, and people are really looking to in-person campaigns, I think, more thoroughly in the upcoming months, which makes sense because things are kind of rapidly, to your point, we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then we're going to see all of our lovely faces in a second. If I can find where it went. Hello. Oh, there it is. Pause share. Maybe. So now let's talk to each other. No one's seeing my screen, hopefully. But it's blank, so if it is okay. I do want to talk a little bit about the circumstances that they kind of make sense. So I don't know if any of our panelists want to share. I know, Caitlin, you had kind of shared a little bit about why they made sense for your organization to do, to maybe kind of bridge that gap or bring in some additional revenue. I don't know if Dan or Paula, you have any other thoughts kind of on why revenue enhancers are important.
So one of the things that we find is that it adds diversity to our event and it makes it way more fun. So if somebody is not into auctions, well, we'll have a raffle or we'll have something else. And what we really want is for people to say at the end of the event, that was so much fun. When are you doing it again? And we find that the more things that we add to the mix, the more fun people have, because there's just something, so there's something for everyone.
Absolutely. No, I think that that's a really good point. And from my experience, the revenue enhancers is kind of what people remember. I mean, of course, there's the food and there's, of course, the mission. But when you're talking about like, what's one fun thing that happened, it is a lot of times the kind of interactive, because they're probably the more interactive piece of what you're doing. For sure. And Dan, I know when we were talking, you had mentioned that there was maybe like an additional benefit beyond the revenue for doing revenue enhancers. You had seen some pretty great toner retention, right?
We did. So last year was our 35th anniversary, and we knew that given everything around the pandemic, we weren't going to have a live event and be able to take advantage of that 35th anniversary. So the revenue enhancers gave us the opportunity to get a lot of new individuals engaged with the agency, learn a little bit more about the agency, and that carried over. Those people, many of whom participated in the 35th, have stuck with us and have stayed active. We also saw the benefit too that our typical adult-focused events now became more family-friendly, and that has really helped us to keep more people engaged in a different audience than we typically had focused on.
Absolutely. No. And I think that even, in a virtual sense, to be able to bring in families into the fold in a way that at a gala wouldn't make sense is really wonderful. But I think in an in-person way or in a hybrid way, games, you know, get more people engaged at your event. So if you have 1,000 people and you have 200 auction items and then there's a paddle raise, how do you make sure that you capture those other 800 people? And revenue enhancers are a really good opportunity for that, for sure, for sure, for sure. And I did like what you said about, that people are coming back. And Paula, you had some of that too, right? That you did something with your bingo, which I know we're going to talk about in a second, but that you had a lot of return beyond that initial donation.
Yeah, well, we had an event, and we'll talk about it in a little more detail, but I added probably about 30 new donors to our list, which was fantastic. But the best thing was subsequently we sent out a fundraising letter, and those people are sending us donations. And I even get people saying, I'm so glad I found you. I didn't know you existed, and we really want to support you. And all of us are trying to get those new donors. It's so important, and it's a great way to do that.
Absolutely. Well, and that doesn't, it kind of, you're like, wait, how did you not know about me? Because I feel like I know my experience, and I'm sure all of you feel the same way, that you want to be there when people need you. And so the fact that, when people say, oh, I wish I knew about you sooner, it's like, that's the thing that hits you the hardest, right? So to be able to kind of have that opportunity, or to create that opportunity for yourselves, because really that's what you've all done, is just really, really great to see. So before we kind of dig into, where'd you go? There you are. I was telling the panelists that I might make some mean faces, and it's because sometimes when I'm shifting things around, so my mean face isn't none of you dear listeners either. But before we dive into some examples, which I know is everybody's favorite thing, I do want to ask, put another poll up. And while everyone is answering that, as we look to in-person and hybrid events that are, truly just around the corner, and for some of us are happening as we speak, how many revenue enhancers do you typically do at your in-person events?
So we always do 2. We find that's kind of the sweet spot, because we don't want to harass people and to have them, oh, for heaven's sakes, all they do is ask for money. So we have our main event, and then we have 2 additional enhancements.
Okay.
For our in-person events, we typically run 3, in addition to our speaking program and paddle raise.
Sure.
Again, engage more people. We also have, since GiveSmart gives us the opportunity to do the online auction and some of the online ticket sales while the event's happening, that has helped engage people who might not be able to attend the event to still be involved in. We're looking forward this year to do the paddle raise electronically as well. So hitting up every aspect of the technology.
That's right. Well, and it helps with that kind of contactless piece too. And definitely it makes the lift, in theory, it should make the lift a lot lighter. I don't know if Lori or Caitlin, you have a sweet spot. 2 and 3, those are similar enough.
Yeah, I think we don't necessarily have a set number that we say, oh, we're having this event and we're only allowing for this. I think each year, a lot of our events are annual. And so we try and figure out, what worked well last year, what, maybe do we need to adjust? We've tried wine polls before for our audience. For whatever reason, it just has not gone over well.
Okay.
But then we tried like a heads and tails game at our gala, and everybody in the whole room participated. So really just finding what works best for your community, and at each particular event is kind of what we have found works best for us.
Absolutely. And I think that is, I always loved heads or tails, and we used to give like glow bracelets out. So when people, I think that's how a lot of revenue enhancers, and maybe this is some of the stuff that you do, but when you can visually represent what people are participating in, then you get more excitement, right? So, the glow bracelets, people will be like, how did you get that? Or what is that for? Even though, to Paula's point, you feel like you're constantly asking people, like, do you want to participate? Do you want to purchase? Do you want to donate? That they don't want to hear from us. They want to see their peers and be like, wait a minute. And I know we used to have people, buy for their whole table, or it just becomes fun and exciting. So, it looks like there's a pretty good mix, which I think to Caitlin and Lori's point, that kind of points out that you have to do what works, and also you have to change it up because eventually people are, going to have a little fatigue, even in an in-person way, with kind of doing the same old, same old. So no, this is a premier raffle item that I guess doesn't come as much of a surprise to me anyway. And I've seen the theatrical raffle kind of like a diamond raffle, like a diamond or a cubic zirconia and like a champagne glass, and you pay a certain amount, and whoever wins the diamond can get it set and things like that. But I guess, is there anything else outside of this list, panelists, that you're like, we did this, and Kathy, how are you not addressing it? How are you not talking about it? Or is this kind of fulfill most of what you guys have done and found success with?
Yeah, I think for us, at least, this seems like it covers most of the areas. But again, like the other panelists have said, we just try to figure out what creatively not only fits with the type of event it is, the kind of mood of the event, if it's more somber, more serious,
Absolutely.
What could work and complement whatever that is, or if it's more fun and exciting, trying to figure out, okay, keep the energy level high, keep people engaged throughout the event. So it really also depends on the type of event that it is, on what you use to do the enhancements to fundraising.
Absolutely. That is a point that could not be missed. You are absolutely, absolutely right that not every event is going to require that. And I did see a question, and this would be a good question as I kind of tee up sharing your campaigns, which is what everyone's excited about. But before I do, I didn't know if someone asked kind of how we like to do revenue enhancers, but that means we need more volunteer support. We need more training. We need to have more kind of happening. I don't know, is there a way that you kind of streamline that, or is there a way that you have found success kind of using volunteers, I guess, for those roles? Anyone?
But our volunteers are quite fantastic, but we tend to have specialists. So I have one person to go to upload certain things. And once they get into GiveSmart, I mean, a lot of it is really the same process. It's just a different event. So once you get used to the system, and your volunteers are used to working with it, you can go from event to event, and then you're like, just let them go because they know what to do.
Right. Right. No, I think that brings up a good point, or you bring up a good point that if you have a technology that kind of the system, I know we used to kind of train people on GiveSmart ahead of time so that they were at least familiar or comfortable. We encourage them to sign up for event, things like that. So when it came to using it the night of, it felt easier. And I know Dan, you said you're going to do your paddle raise electronically. So you're going to have people be able to kind of make that happen on their phones. You're not necessarily like running over to the table to try to capture their donation.
We're going to do all of the above. So they can either place their bid via their phone, they can raise their paddle where we'll be collecting numbers. And then for folks who are at home watching as we're doing it, they'll be able to also place their bid, place their donation from their phone, computer, whatever they're watching from too. So we're going to try all methods, see how that goes. The last time we did it, it was just using the panel, and we had about 8 staff running around trying to chase numbers.
Sure. And then sometimes the worst thing of all is that you feel like you could have missed it.
Well, we did it, and it was really nice if we utilized the texts as well as the emails following the event to make sure that we captured everyone.
Sure.
And we have a few folks who said, "Oh, you missed me, but here was the amount that I wanted to donate. Please add this onto my till," which was really helpful because we know, and most people are familiar when you come to a nonprofit event, it's tight in terms of how many volunteers you have and how much staff. So they're there to give and be philanthropic, and they want to help you out as well.
Absolutely. So no, that's a really, really, really good point. And I think, I guess to kind of piggyback on that, I guess we should talk about Lori and Caitlin. So you had a trivia night. Is that something you guys typically do annually? You mentioned you'd
Go ahead. No, go ahead. This is actually our first time doing that.
Okay.
We don't typically have a fall event, and we really felt like we needed to really have a revenue enhancer. And so we had a virtual trivia night and used an outside company to help us with the trivia side. But we already had all of these items donated for a previous event that was canceled. And so we knew that, here's another way to be able to raise some more money. And so we utilized GiveSmart. And this was the first time that we actually utilized it for a raffle.
Sure.
Previously, we had only done silent auctions or live auctions, and it was wonderful. And they recommended using random raffle to be able to select the random.org to be able to select the winner from there. And so it went very smoothly. It was low barrier to entry. Again, like Dan said, people who weren't at participating in the event, there was obviously no physical location for virtual, but if you were not a member of the trivia, you could still participate in the raffle. And we had raffle tickets as low as $1 for entry. So yeah, that was our first experience with a raffle. And we did it again for another event, a paint and sip that we had this spring. So we were happy to be able to utilize GiveSmart and expand the use that we've utilized it in the past as well.
Sure. Well, yeah, because I know our experience is that a lot of people reach out and say, we would love to do this, but we can't pay more for the technology or whatever. And it's like, no, no, no. Raffles included, like once you pay your subscription fee, you get it all. So everything that we're talking about today. So I think that that's a really important note. And I mean, you guys had some really good items. So that's really exciting. And to that end, or to keep kind of going, tell me a little bit about this car race and kind of why you chose to do it and what you kind of saw.
Yeah, so like I had mentioned in the beginning, we were in between events. We felt like our constituents were really having Zoom fatigue, so we could not do another virtual event, ask everybody to get on Zoom. They had been spending their full day, whether they were at school or work, to be able to do that. And so we came across this idea by another school, and really with the help of GiveSmart was able to make it our own and much more efficient. And yes, and so Lori will talk a little bit more about the ins and outs of what that looks like. And Kathy, if you could go to the items page to just some of the items while Lori's kind of talking about what is a car race.
So we basically, like David said, we found.
Oh, Lori, you're super quiet for some weird reason. Maybe shift it so.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, perfect. So we discovered this another school that was not using GiveSmart. And so, like Caitlin has said, it just made everything a lot more efficient. And basically, from soup to nuts, what we would do is we would pick out the items, and then we would have a certain price point for each item. And as you can see, it could be anything from a grill to a patio furniture set to a gift card. And so we would have a specific amount of lines or chances for each person. Different, like it would depend on what the item was as to, how much the item would be, or the ticket would be.
Sure.
And we would do a virtual car race. And the virtual car race would take place once the item sold out. And it would be different per prize. So some would have 10 spaces available, some would have 20. And this was brand new to us. So we were kind of learning as we were going along each
Sure.
week. Some races, it took a few weeks to sell out. And we discovered that, the lower, let's say for example, Nordstrom gift card, we had it $10, we had 20 lines at $10 each for a $150 gift card. And that seemed to work the best. I think, different prizes, we would have $15 per chance, 16. So anything that went above maybe 15, at least for our audience, we were kind of pushing it a little bit. So then for the car race, we went to onlinestopwatch.com, and once everything sold out, we were able to race and come up with a winner. So it was very exciting, very fun. We received a lot of positive feedback from it, and it was, we were just looking for something new and exciting and fresh. And this is what we came up with, and it was good. And so we netted, I don't know, 3,000.
Perfect. And I think too, I mean, you talked about new, exciting, fresh, all important things. Because I think we've all used the word fatigue at some point today. That you had to do something that was engaging and you had to bridge the gap. I know a lot of organizations that I talked to were like, well, we had to bridge the gap because typically I would, maybe getting lunch, or I would see people, in your case, probably at school drop off or school pickup or whatever that may look like, or at a sporting event or things like that. So even these kind of accidental kind of interactions that you would have with your donors, you weren't having anymore. And so you kind of had to create them. And I know some of the stuff that you bought, we had seen, and this is just a tip that perhaps will work for some of you, but we did have some generous donors cash in their credit card points and get us gift cards for things like this in the past. And Paula and Dan, you're both nodding your head. So I'm sure you've kind of had some experience with that too, because sometimes people, depending on their, if they want to give anonymously, it's like a very easy way to kind of do so. So that is just food for thought for all of our listening audience today. And we did get a question that I will, I guess I'm curious, do any of you kind of look at your reporting? Like Caitlin, I mean, you definitely talked about how once you hit a certain price point, it seemed to be a bigger deal to try to get people to engage. So you learned, like, as time goes on, you learn like this is kind of the price point that seemed to get the most, had the hardest return on kind of our investment or our time. And someone asked, is there any research on raffle or silent auction items that have better results? Do any of you kind of dive into Give Smart reporting and see what worked best for you?
We find that the auction items that people like are experiential.
Sure.
The one that we had, the best one, we just had an author of someone who writes dog books, and actually they're fiction. And he said that he would auction off that whoever was the winner would have their name as a character in their next book.
That's actually super fun.
It was, and he promoted it on his Facebook page. So we got all kinds of people who were his fans coming to our auction site because they desperately wanted that. And we had a Zoom session. They also had a private half-hour Zoom session with him. So it was fantastic. It was by far our most popular event because it was something you can't get anywhere else.
No, that's like really fun. I like that a lot. And to your point, it's something you can't buy. Just so everybody kind of is listening, and we've sent it or we've shared it in chat. Maybe we can share it in chat again, but we do have a truly brand new updated ultimate silent auction study, and it goes over kind of regionally what has performed best. And Paul, I think you hit the nail on the head that it's things you can't buy. So restaurant gift card is great, but a chef's dinner is something different, or a menu that's your own, or a menu item that's named after you. I mean, we've seen a lot of that kind of stuff go over very well. Character in a book is actually really, really cool. But take a look at that. And something in general that we saw is that what worked well in 2019 also worked well in 2020. So for once, things kind of stayed status quo there. And I think that that's really, really important to note. And I think the rest of the questions I'll save till the end. But Dan, let's talk about your bingo nights and how fun they were. And yeah, just tell me a little bit about why you did them, and I guess kind of what you saw or what the success rate was.
Sure. So like everyone else, we had to completely flip everything upside down last year. And we had 5 in-person events scheduled that had to be canceled, one of which was our largest fundraiser of the whole year. So we really had to think on our feet and do something pretty quickly. Like Caitlin said, we actually saw this at another organization and kind of took what worked and tweaked it and made it our own. We are fortunate enough that Harmonica Sunbeam, who is a drag performer that is extremely well known in this region, was not only a former employee of ours, but also someone that's very dedicated to helping both the LGBTQ plus community as well as the community living with HIV. So we kicked off bingo. It was a little muddy the first time we did it, but we learned pretty quickly what we needed to fix. So we did it via Zoom. And people registered via GiveSmart for a $20 fee. You got one card, and then each additional card was a $10 fee. So we use the same cards for all 6 games, so that we try to make it as easy as possible. Where we were able to make our money was people bought additional cards, and they wanted to play like 4 cards per game. For our prizes, as Caitlin said too, I think it was Caitlin mentioned that we had leftover prizes from our in-person event. And we were scrambling to figure out, like, okay, we have all this stuff that has to go somewhere and we have to do something with it. We did that for our first few bingos. And then as time went on, we ran out of items. Amazon became our best friend. We ordered directly on Amazon and shipped directly to the person.
Sure.
It didn't cost us anything, which was fantastic. And we started getting folks from around the country playing bingo with us, not just in the New Jersey area. So we were trying to get something shipped to California, which would be more expensive than the item. So it worked out using Amazon to just ship direct. But for the actual game itself, we would have a slide deck to kick off the event, and kind of run it as a movie reel prior to us jumping on and starting. That gave information not only about the organization, about upcoming events, and about current topics. So when COVID vaccines started, when testing was being rolled out more efficiently, we put that information out there for people to at least get information from us, and they felt that we were a trusted source. Harmonica was great because she had experience with doing these bingos, so she kept the night rolling and gave some tips as well. So one of our staff members was DJ'd for us throughout the night. So when you talked about needing more volunteers, it was myself, my staff person that works with me, and Harmonica. It was 3 of us. Our biggest bingo was 110 people. We just did a bingo that was kind of smaller, and it had about 25 or 30 people. So it kind of ranged in size. Great thing was it was family friendly, and Harmonica does story hour at the local libraries, story hour. So she's used to doing things that are family friendly, which was great. And yeah, so we've raised about $18,000 from our 8 public bingos. We've done 3 private targeted bingos as well. Through GiveSmart, we've done a total, GiveSmart and 501, we've done 19 different campaigns and raised over $350,000. So for us, this has been a huge help to keep updating the way that we're fundraising for our, but bingo was huge. And so now we're trying to figure out, how do we take that energy and now spin it to more of an in-person event, or periodically keep doing a Zoom on those rainy nights or on weekends when it's colder. So we probably will roll these back out in the fall or heading into the winter.
Absolutely. And I would like to imagine that you're going to have Harmonica at your live events, because clearly she is dynamic and is, yeah, for sure. I mean, you have the golden ticket there.
Yes.
You're like, I know it, Kathy. But I think it's, I mean, so you do 5 events with 2 staff?
We do. Yeah. Well, we do a year. We probably do about 8 events. And then the staff person that works with me, so we do all of our communication and design work as well. So I kind of take on most of that effort. He also works with our public policy team, so that's his split position. So it's a nice blend of responsibilities, since a lot of what we can do from the fundraising side comes from policy work and promoting kind of the larger picture of how we're impacting the state.
Absolutely. No, and I love that you said that you took it as an opportunity. I mean, of course, it's fun, it's family friendly, but you took it as an opportunity to share needed messaging or to share needed mission information. And I think where I've seen revenue enhancers, when they're kind of folded into the program, it is a nice balance between kind of mission information or calls to action on that side of the fence, and then kind of some fun dynamic stuff to keep people excited, because sometimes programs can go really long. And so revenue enhancers allow you to marry the fun with the necessity, and not that people don't want to hear all of those, testing and vaccine and all of that stuff, but it's dry. I mean, there's no other way to say it. So it's nice to, be able to have something that you can kind of use to augment your voice, which is just really important, and something I hadn't really considered until you said it.
And it was great to just add on that through this, we always had the donation link up and available for people. So we were able to get a number of donations in addition to the registrations from folks that we normally would not have received a donation from. The other piece I'll just add, going back to raffles versus auction,
Sure.
we've actually seen mixed success. So when we did the 50-50 raffle for our 35th anniversary, the price point on the ticket was a little higher. It was $35 a ticket, but we ended up raising almost $17,000. We've done it for our casino night, and we've raised only about $3,000 or $4,000 because the price point's a little cheaper, a little more manageable. In our auction, we've seen a decline in our auction. And even though our items might be great, we just had the conversation with our volunteers of, do we do an auction again? Or do we just scrap it and try to come up with something else? We're going to give it a whirl because it's still yet, as everyone else has said, it's a great opportunity for folks who might not be in the room to still stay involved, stay active, and feel like they're part of the event.
Sure. And I've seen people do like a gift card, a treasure chest or bird cage, where they put a bunch of gift cards that get donated into one thing, and you sell keys that open it. Or I've seen the gift card wall, or that's what that theatrical raffle or theatrical thing was on the poll. I've seen like balloon raffles where you put gift cards in balloons or tickets in balloons, and you pop them. So it's, whimsical. But no, I think that I'm sure all of you maybe have something to say about this, and that's maybe what we can close with, but we'll go to Paula first, is that it's important to take a hard look at what you're doing, because even though something's been working, if it's on the decline, even if you love it, or I loved, Caitlin and Lori, what you said, like wine polls, like I get they work for other people, but they don't work for us. So stop investing your time and energy in it, to make it work. You don't have to keep doing something that's not working just because you've been doing it a long time. So that's just a really important thing. And I think where we've seen organizations differentiate themselves kind of in the past year is, how can we make what we know will drive revenue and drive donor engagement work in a virtual world? And what do we need to maybe start in order to keep engagement up? So that's why I loved, the car race and things like that are just really, really, really important. But Paula, face masks, we've all become very familiar. But tell me a little bit about this and kind of some of your results.
Sure. So when the pandemic hit, our income was significantly impacted, and we were thinking of a way to make some funds. And we came up with the idea of my volunteers sewing face masks. And originally it was that we would send out an email telling people we had face masks, and they would email me back and saying, well, what kind of designs do you have? And I have to email them. And I was like, this is not working. So then it occurred to us, let's use GiveSmart. We have it already, and we set it up to be instant items. And we included the cost of shipping right in it, so we don't have to worry about that. And the thing that was quite fantastic is we have new designs every week. We have some that are selling out, some that are that we are adding to the mix. And with GiveSmart, we were able to keep everything current. What's new? And we could also keep track of our sales. So what's really hot? What do we need to order more of? The other thing that we did was we sold these face masks. We had a table outside the local dog store and garden shop. And what would happen was, when we also made up business cards with the GiveSmart information on it. So someone would buy, anytime someone bought a face mask, we would give them a business card. People would say, oh my gosh, what a great mask. Where did you get it? And they would hand them this card, and they would go to the GiveSmart. So it was one hand helping the other, where GiveSmart was helping our sales altogether, but our in-person sales were also driving people to the GiveSmart site. And it was just fantastic. And I will say we raised $32,000 selling face masks at $10 a pop. So it really saved us during this event. But I got to say, it was having the idea to go on GiveSmart that really made it take off, because that way everybody we sold them all throughout the country because anybody can get them, and it was quite fantastic. So we still have it, and now the face mask sales are slowing down. We are pivoting yet once again, and now we are going to be my sewers are going to start making crossbody bags and pouches, zippered pouches, and fanny packs. And we're going to put those up on the site. People are used to coming to this site. They're going to come now. Do they need a gift for someone? Do they need something? They've got a German Shepherd. What have we got in a German Shepherd fabric? And that way we can keep this going now that people are used to using it.
For sure. And I like what you said about having, I mean, like having the gift or a business card to let, when people said, because I know that happened to me all the time. People like, I like that mask. Where'd you get it? And I'd be like, ooh, I don't remember. But to have something in your pocket, and especially if they're invested in you and care and say, well, this is where I got it. I know that's kind of like a peer-to-peer fundraising idea, which I think is just really smart. So that I love that.
Well, the nice thing is the buyers turned into our sellers, and that was just quite fantastic.
And that's that's why peer-to-peer works, right? Because they're advocating for you because they care and what you do matters to them. So that is giving people the tools to do that is huge, because I think often we all have things that we care about, but if I'm having a conversation with someone in 6 feet apart in a grocery line, like I can't necessarily be like, well, you go here, you go here, you go here. No, that's very smart. See, you're all expert fundraisers, and it's very clear because it's like creativity, finding new ways. I mean, you've said all the right things. And I guess we'll close out with this campaign example about adding in voting, which we've seen done a couple different ways, but I want to hear how you guys did it with Pals for Life.
So we had a bingo event as well, Bow Wow Bingo, which has a dog theme. And so we added a pet photo contest, and the pet photo contest was fantastic. It was free to enter. But people could vote. It was $2 a vote, and we had a great prize. The winning person got a hand-painted portrait of their pet. And first of all, everybody thought this was fantastic. We had 38 entries. But the other thing that was great was we got a lot of new people because they'd find out about it. And not only were they coming, but all of their friends were voting, and they were all new people also. The other thing that was fantastic is we interspersed our corporate sponsors among the pictures. So everyone had a link to the corporate sponsors, and people kept coming back and back and back to the pet photo contest because we added new photos all the time. And the people participating had to find out, were they winning? Who's really close behind them? Did they have to get more people to vote? So people were constantly coming back and back and back to this website. So our corporate sponsors thought that was fantastic. And the other thing that happened was, along with the pet photo contest, we had a silent auction. People were coming to our website to see the pet photos, and they're like, ooh, they have an auction? And they would go over and bid on the auction as well. So it had many different layers of ways to help us. It raised to the pet photo contest raised $2,600 in and of itself. And the other thing was, it cost us nothing because the person who was doing the portrait donated it. So it's all extra income. And the other thing that was great is up until it was closing, we got more people going, is it too late to enter? I was like, yes, it was. But we promised them to do another one. And we actually are doing another one at the end of this month. And this theme is going to be the human pet bond. Anyone can enter. Go to Pals for Life.
That's a fundraiser right there. I love it. Well, and I like to the idea that you had all these new donors come in. And I think that's kind of the gift of a revenue enhancer, right? Is that be it at an event where, let's say a sponsor had a whole table. And I know someone made a comment that usually when people go, they expect to spend 3 to 4 times their price of entry is what they're expecting. But I know my experience is when people were gifted a ticket, meaning their boss bought a table and so they were brought, they need many assume or know or are walking in the door knowing that they should at least spend the price of their ticket because it was gifted to them on things. So to have the opportunity, and I think voting, we've seen it done like with a school, we've seen it done like vote for which coach is going to get pied in the face or is going to have to wear the mascot costume or, anything that's kind of, whimsical that you can kind of do at a school and people pledge money to vote, or which teacher is going to, again, do something funny or have their car decorated by the seniors or whatever. We've seen a variety of things. And at galas, I think we've seen it, and we've seen it done in a virtual and hybrid way where vote for the family friendly, Dan, to kind of talk about what you were doing, vote for the best mac and cheese recipe, vote for the cocktail that you made that you liked. And having, Paula, to your point, having all of those other things available. So saying, well, if you want to vote for a cocktail, you can also, buy a cocktail kit, or you can also bid on our auction or whatever some of those things look like. So I think that is No, I think you're all talking like fundraisers and I love it. But there are just so many, I think, creative ways. And this is obviously people love their pets and love their breeds apparently, because the face masks are all like, yeah, like dog fabric. But you're like, yes, Kathy. But I just think it's really important. And Dan, I think you said it, or I believe it was you who said, like, we have this system, so we've got to figure it out. And bingo can happen. Like, there are bigger mountains people have climbed. We can figure out how to do bingo virtually, right? And I think that is something, I know that that's something, people definitely have some experience with. So before we go to questions, is there anything else our panelists want to share, or something that you're like, Kathy, you missed the boat on this, or just anything else that you feel is really important to talk about when we talk about, revenue enhancers and games and fun stuff?
I just want to add one thing about the pet photo contest is no one is going to go up and ask someone to donate to my organization that they've never heard of before, but they were going to say, can you vote for my pet? So again, that's another way to just, it's an easy way to get people to come to your organization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is, without question. Yeah. Opening up or kind of extending an invitation and having others be able to do that too.
I would agree, Paula. Same thing for our race. It was not about, raising money for our school. It was, do you want a Lululemon gift card, or are you in the market for a grill? For $18, you can win a grill. So it was absolutely people spreading the word, and not so much about your mission necessarily, but bringing new donors into the fold. It was very helpful.
Absolutely. Dan, did you have anything else to add before I'll talk about data and then dive into questions?
Sure, just real quick, as a follow-up to each one of the events, it was really important for us to re-engage them and have a conversation in some way, shape, or form. So if that was via email or through social media, we tried to follow up so that those individuals felt like even though it was a passive or a more fun way of being involved, they felt like they were still connected to us in some way. So we always tried to vary that up and hit kind of populations through whatever mechanism we could to make them feel appreciated for taking the time to spend the evening with us or to give us a donation. Absolutely.
No, I think you kind of hinted at the idea of stewardship or follow-up. We do have a donor segmentation webinar happening on Tuesday. So if you haven't heard enough of me kind of hosting a webinar, you have the opportunity to listen in on Tuesday too. And I know we're going to be talking about stewardship. That's our last panel discussion on June 24th. So that is a nut that I think if organizations crack and kind of really invest a little time and energy there, that they will see a lot of dividends be paid. So before we move on to questions, and I'm kind of teetering between looking at questions and all the rest of it, but we do want to talk a little bit about some data or what we're seeing. So if you look at the total money that our customer base, so the organizations and schools that we work with raised, you can see, I guess it's no surprise that there was some dip in 2020. But you can see this huge uptick in terms of year-over-year growth and this is just looking at, it says the first 5 months. So it's just looking at January through May in all of these years. So a huge change already this year, and then even an improvement from 2019. So I'm not sure, I know we're all probably looking at, it's hard to predict what's going to happen because what just happened was totally unpredictable. But what we are seeing across the board, and this is just revenue enhancers, but when we look at a lot of other things, this is sort of the trend that we're seeing, that in general, we are surpassing 2019 numbers in a lot of different ways, which is just a really positive thing. And I hope people feel inspired by. And, in terms of the number of campaigns run, of course, all of you have made it clear that on GiveSmart, you can host as many fundraisers as you want through the system, which is really, it's a nice benefit. And so we're seeing, more organizations do, rather if they just had one distinguished event, they had to do more. So we didn't see as much of that in 2019, but it's again, all kind of on the upswing in 2021, which is just really encouraging. So hopefully our listening audience today, you were all inspired by what our panelists had to say and what they shared and how they got creative. And hopefully if you've kind of been hesitant to try something new, I know we should have shared it in the chat, or we should be sharing it now. We could share it again. The we have a fundraising accelerator. So it looks at all of these different categories of games and fun things you can do. And we took our data and we're sharing it. So how much can you expect to raise from this if you have, X amount of guests, et cetera, et cetera. So take that for a spin. I think it's really important because I know that it can feel scary to try something new. And Dan, I mean, I love that you said like we did it, and we kind of mucked it up a little, and now we're figuring it out. Like, we learned some lessons on bingo 1, and bingos 2 through 10 were great. And that's just really, 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 really important. So with that, let's get to some questions. Lori and Caitlin, there's a question about, in general, like a range, how many tickets did you have per each item for your car race? Like how many opportunities were there?
Yeah, the chances were pretty low. So we tried to not only keep the ticket price low, but our profit on each item, I mean, some of them were as low as $50. So we did use the money coming in to actually purchase the item. So one way that you certainly could increase your revenue is to get these items donated, and then it would be complete profit. But we just felt like our community was really, struggling in the local businesses, and so we felt like we were just going to purchase these items. So it really ranged, I would say, number of chances probably from 15 to 40.
Exactly. Yeah, depending on the prize. And we also did, just like you, we also used Amazon, and it was a great gift to us because we had people who were winning from Georgia, from all over the place. So it was nice to see people who were joining and racing, having fun, winning, and we could just go on to Amazon and have it sent, cross country. So
For sure. And I think too, you make a good point that, virtual opens up that opportunity, right? So even if, Dan, did you say you were doing hybrid events in the short term?
Our gala this year is going to be a hybrid event. So
Okay.
we're anticipating about 80% live, 20% virtual participation.
Sure.
But again, it's to carry over those folks who aren't from the area to still participate, feel like they're still part of it, because we do a black tie optional. So by the time you pay for the ticket, do your dress, black tie, whatever, price just keeps going up and up and up. And for some folks, it's just not affordable. But this way, more people can feel like they're still connected to the event.
Absolutely. And the reason I asked, or that qualifier, is because we did have someone ask, are you charging tickets for people who are going to be hybrid? Because
I'm sorry. So last year we charged $35 flat across the board.
Okay.
Anniversary, and then got everyone the link access. For this year, we're not.
Okay.
So we're going to charge for in-house, but I'm trying to get a sponsor to sponsor streaming so that we can put their logo at the bottom while anyone's watching from home, and we're just going to do it for free. The goal is, though, we're going to really push the paddle race to then make up that funding difference for the folks that are watching from home. That way they still can participate in that, still see the thermometer grow. And we watched a bunch of, or participated in a bunch of webinars where people were going back and forth on if you charge for a virtual event, not. And it's so hard to manage that where you don't feel like you're getting duped in some way. I know that sounds horrible, but like we just said, if somebody really wants to participate, let them participate. Like we'll take that. So we're just going to do it for free and try to make up the funding difference elsewhere.
Well, and on the in-person side, I mean, they're getting a meal. I know a lot, they're getting their access to drinks. It's the environment. It's the music. It's the DJ. It's Harmonica Sunbeam. It's all of that piece feels, I mean, that's the difference between listening to music and being at a concert, right? So I think that is something that people understand. And I know virtually what a lot of people did was, like if they were charging a ticket, there usually was something tangible people got. So a party kit or food or something like that. So that is and I'll ask one more question. And I guess we should have maybe gone through that. Heads or tails? Does anyone want to describe what that looks like? Or I certainly can, if you've done it at your events. No? Okay, so I'll talk about it. So I'll even visualize. So heads or tails is where you set a price point, and it's, I guess, a take on a raffle, in that you set a price point, and so let's say it's $20, and for $20 everyone gets a glow bracelet, because you have to identify heads or tails participants. And then at a point during your program, you invite all the heads or tails participants onto your dance floor, or virtually. You really could do it as long as everyone was on camera. And your MC flips a coin. And so before he or she or they flip a coin, everyone has to pick heads or tails and put their hands, on their tail. And so it's kind of funny, it's kind of, as the night has gone on and people are feeling a little loose and excited. So you have this whole group, heads or tails, and then he or she or they flip a coin. And then if it's heads, everyone who had their hands on their head stays, everyone who had their hands on their tails goes. And you can imagine as it kind of whittles down. And at the end, you win a prize. So, but it's fun. It's a way to kind of get that interaction up. And I know we often used it when we talk about kind of those secondary opportunities, which all of you touched on, where, Paula, you had donors respond to your annual appeal. Dan, you have people who came to your gala who just did bingo, which was a surprise. Caitlin, you had engagement, and Laura, you had engagement from your race car drivers, who people kind of carried over into other things. We always did it, I want to say, just before our paddle raise, or maybe when we were like closing our auction, when things felt a little low, because we want to get people excited, engaged, and pumped, and like ready to spend. So it's funny. It's just funny. So anyway, that is heads or tails, and some of these other things, we'll have someone reach out to you. And with that, thank you so much to all of you for listening. I want to, before we go, say congratulations to Paula, because she is retiring at the end of the month. And so she, in her last 3 weeks of being a working woman, has taken time today. So while I'm appreciative of all of you, I would be remiss not to say congratulations to Paula on a much deserved retirement. And to all of you, truly, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And to all of our listeners, we hope you learned something. There is a survey at the end, so please take it, because believe it or not, we do look at it, and we try to tailor, or we try to make sure that we're delivering what our listening audience wants to hear. So with that, thank you so much, and everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Congratulations, Paula.
Congratulations.
Thank you.